get into the defensive side. Before we do, real quick, just Paul Brettel put a tweet out, said starting O-line in 11-on-11 was Walker at left tackle, Aaron Banks left guard, Jacob Monk at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and then Zach Tom at right tackle. We've already kind of hit on all that, with Jacob Monk getting his opportunity. But I wanted to point out the defensive side. I said Isaiah Simmons was with Cooper and McDuffie at linebacker. Now, obviously, Quay Walker is still banged up. He's dealing with some kind of injury. So it wasn't like they put Simmons in there starting in place of Quay, right, or starting over Quay. But I think what it tells us here, though, is Simmons and McDuffie are going to be battling for that number 3 linebacker. And I don't know how you guys feel, but to me it seems like McDuffie's got the edge there. Would you guys agree with that, or do you think Isaiah Simmons is going to get a real serious look here as the number 3 linebacker? What do y'all think? We'll start with you, Emilio. Sorry, Tim.
Sorry to cut you off there, Tim. I would say that Isaiah Simmons, we're just trying to get him reps early to see so that we know. If not, I think that it's got to be McDuffie or Hopper. Unless Isaiah Simmons really shows something, and I think that's why you put him out there first, just to try to get an idea, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's what Deadfish said. Let's see what we got in Simmons, Tim. How do you feel about it, man? Because McDuffie has been with Jeff Hafley at Boston College before, right? And it's obvious when they signed him to that extension, they see something in McDuffie that they really, really like,
Yeah, I agree. I unequivocally feel that McDuff is, the third linebacker for sure, behind Quay and Coop. I think Zay McDuffie is the guy. Now, that's not a knock on Simmons, and I agree with Deadfish and, as well as Emilio's point that, like, hey, get him in early and often. Let's see what we got. Let's see what it's looking like. But I feel like the future, at stackbacker is definitely Coop, Quay, McDuffie, and then we're looking at Tyron Hopper behind him. But then again, we don't know. We got to see how camp plays out. We're only at OTAs right now. There's a lot of time left before we really see this team kind of take shape. But if you ask me today, what do I think? I think, Zay McDuffie is your third linebacker for sure. And like you said, Clay, it's evident in the fact that they chose to keep him around, give him that new deal, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I go back and forth with the linebacker room because, that's my favorite position just in football in general. And I really think we obviously know what we have with Coop. I think we know what we have with the possibility of where we could plug in Quay and the two of them absolutely being predominantly on the field. The third linebacker situation is kind of one that I'm kind of scratching my head with. I have been a big McDuffie fan since the day we got him. I thought that he was always underrated. And now I think that, unfortunately, he may have relegated down to the I hate saying this, but I think he may be a progress stopper. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't want to say anything bad about. I want him on the team. I think we're a better team with him on our squad. I think that he more represents now what the linebacker floor should be in that room. And I would hope that guys like Simmons, because of his draft pedigree, I would hope that guys like Hopper, because of his draft pedigree and having another year in the league, or insert, let's say maybe an Oliver surprises everybody, and that dude's got a lot of skill. I would expect that those guys get to have more playing time over McDuffie, and McDuffie just doesn't get the nod because, hey, we've been around, we've known you for longer, we know exactly what your floor is, but we should say we know what we're going to get out of you, and we're not going to get anything terrible. Whereas with the other guys, we don't quite even know what we're going to get out of them. And I just want to see us test those waters. By the time that week one comes, I just want the best three out there starting, whatever that is.
Amen to that. Paul Brettel went on to say the cornerbacks were Nixon and Valentine. Bullard came in for Simmons and played nickel. So obviously Nate Hobbs missed today with personal reasons. Hopefully everything's all right there. Probably a family issue or something like that, I would imagine. But that kind of tips the hand there a little bit. That Bullard is probably that backup slot still, right? And it sounds like they're probably going to push Nate Hobbs into that slot position. And he'll probably bounce back to the outside in base, I would imagine. That's if Jair isn't here. The thought of Jair being on this team, man, I still get excited about it because, my God, man, I feel good about the cornerback room without it. But you add him in a year where he's going to be extra motivated, and if they do restructure the deal, some people were rumored as saying, that, hey, they may just axe that final year off of the deal and just part ways after this year, that type of thing. If that's the case, then you got to see what you got in Valentine. You got to kind of roll the dice here a little bit. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm the only Packer fan that's not stressing out over whether Jair is going to be here or not. I want him back. The team's better with him on it. But I don't know how you guys feel about that. Jacob, what do you think? We'll start with you this time. Are you? How concerned are you? 1 to 10. How concerned are you if Jair Alexander is not on this team next year? With 10 being the most concerned.
Right. I honestly think that I'd be 6.
I think it's fair.
I'm kind of like you. I wouldn't say that I didn't care, but I was more. I've had a lot of confidence in Carrington personally, and I have a lot of confidence in even some of the guys that we haven't seen splash on yet, like guys like Kalen King, guys I feel like Hobbs, and even possibly people that we haven't seen that they could surprise us. Would I like to obviously have Jair there? Totally. If I could pick it, be my preference, 100% plug him there. I would still want, I think, Carrington on the opposite side. I'd love to have maybe Nixon be more of a backup boundary type person or perimeter guy. And I still think that X and Evan are my favorites for deep safety. And unfortunately, I wish that I could say I want Bullard in the slot, but I think that we'd probably have a better run with either Hobbs or even Keyshawn possibly playing nickel again. So I don't know. I think that we have enough options where it's interesting. Like losing one of those guys doesn't throw a wrench in the system enough so where I'm like, oh, all hope is lost. Start over. The secondary's done. If anything, I think we could lose, and I hate saying it this way, I think we could afford to lose 2 or 3 injuries and still be competable, or still compete on a weekend and weekend basis. I just, for that much, I'm not freaking out. It definitely would make me less excited, less confident, but I'd say 6 out of 10.
Gotcha. What about you, Emilio? 1 to 10, 10 being the most concerned. How concerned would you be if Jair was not on the roster?
I mean, I'm like a 4 or 5. We played without him last year. I figured, he's under contract right now. If he shows up, he shows up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. We'll figure out the money and, whatever the punishment is after that. But I think that the defense is going to be fine, without Ja being there. I think that they showed it last year. They can show it again this year, and we've just added more talent to it. So I don't really see it being a huge problem. Obviously, you'd love to have him, but I'm not too worried. Probably like a 4.
Gotcha. What about you, Tim? What number would you put on him at?
5, right where I have been.
That's
right
where I would be. Yeah.
Right in the middle. I've kind of been there throughout this whole process. The thing with Ja is, like, Emilio makes a great point. Like, we've already seen what it's like to not have Jair for an extended period of time. This is why we're talking about Carrington Valentine in the way we are, because he got those opportunities and he maximized them. So there's a reason to believe that, obviously, yes, we're a better team with Jair Alexander on the field, but, injuries aside, availability aside, I'm the captain, antics aside, all of that, the things that come with Ja being Ja, you set all that aside. I mean, at what point do you start to think maybe he's a progress stopper the longer he's around? And you look at guys like a CV, you look at Kalen King, you see Javon Bullard, you see these young guys in the secondary, and it's like, well, we'd love to have Ja if he's 100% and he's playing like he did in, 2019, 2020, then great. But if not, then hey, I say let the kids play. I feel good about this defense, especially the secondary. And but Ja's my dude, so I'm going to stay right in the middle. I'd love to see him back. I'd love to see him, play the rest of his career here, but not as much as I would love to see the Packers bring Lombardi home. So whatever it takes to get that done, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button for us. Feel free to sub to the channel. Got a bunch of people watching in here. We appreciate y'all making us part of your evening as the Packers were at OTAs earlier today. Shout out to Professor Cakes. I just got my signed Robert Brooks jersey.
Yep.
Rock PTA. That's absolutely awesome, man. If you guys are wondering what the heck that's about, We do giveaways on here for people who are in our Patreon group. It's a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. And that is the best way to support what we do here at PTA is go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access or scan the QR code in the upper right. If you're a member of the $3 tier, so what we say, don't worry about the other two unless you just want to be extra generous. But if you're a member of the $3 tier, you get entered into all of the giveaways. And this Saturday, we're going to be giving away an autographed rookie Kingsley and Igbare card donated from Rick Kruger. Nice little piece here. And we got a autographed Lucas Van Ness that's going out from last week. And we have got a ton of giveaways coming up. So we'll probably start scattering a couple in throughout the middle of the week. Just make sure you remember that $3 tier, and that'll enter you into a chance to win in those contests for sure. Greg Rice said the beard left. Yeah, he was sending racy pictures here in the private chat, so we had to boot him out, man.
Yes, get ready to go.
Just on a, I don't know, about a, what would this be? Probably about a 22.5-hour suspension. We got the beard on.
Yeah.
So. Moving along, Marcus Eversole actually tweeted this out, said new defensive line coach DeMarcus Covington doing his job. And he put in parentheses, in case you were wondering, he's coaching. Okay, so here he is with the defensive line group, and you see Baron Sorrell. Baron Sorrell looking like a dog. I'm going to take that back one more time. Look at number 99 here, boys. It's a big old – did you see the way he threw that down?
I think he broke that. I think he broke that tackling dummy for sure.
Dude, those sleds aren't light either.
Oh, they are.
My man just
look at
compared to that one. I mean, he threw that thing to the side.
Yeah, we'll let it loop back through. We'll catch it again here in a minute. Is this number 55? Who is this? No, it's 53.
Mosby.
Right?
Yeah, Mosby.
Now you see. Here we go. Watch him again. Watch him throw this thing, guys. Get off me. Dog. What kind of impact you guys think DeMarcus Covington is going to have on this defensive line? And we're going to talk Kenny Clark here in a minute as we got some extra information. Actually, we'll hit that next. I think Covington's going to be a great addition, man. He's winning pedigree. We went through and broke down his entire coaching history. Obviously, he was handpicked by Bill Belichick in that, to be added to his defense. And he was in there for multiple years before he excelled all the way to defensive coordinator under Gerard Mayo, which we know that entire experiment was an absolute disaster. I think what you're getting here in DeMarcus Covington is someone who's got a great history in terms of – people like to say, oh, well, look how bad they were when he was a defensive coordinator. Right, he's not our defensive coordinator now. He's back to doing what he's done really, really well when New England had some of the top defenses in the league. So what do y'all think about Covington here?
Go ahead, Emilio.
Man, I'm now watching a little bit of this tape. I just get excited. He kind of has that energy. He's got that drive. He's sitting there. He's showing them. He's, like we said, came from Bill Belichick. That tree, that alone has got to have so much just importance and meaning behind it. And the amount that he's learned from him is, I'm sure second to none. Then on top of that, you got Jeff Hafley right over there, right behind the other dummy, sitting right over his back, just making sure, we're all on the same page together, that we're getting what we want out of this team, out of this D line. And I love the unity and that sort of brotherhood that they got. And that's exciting to see. I hope he really does turn that D line around and get whatever else out we can out of him.
Yeah, Tim, Greg asked here, is he next up when Hafley? I love that everybody just knows Hafley's leaving. Like, it's just a matter of time for that dude's a head coach.
La 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 blah blah blah.
The beautiful thing about that question, though, Tim, is there's multiple candidates, right? You got Derek Ansley, former DC. You got Covington, former DC. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I don't want to even think about Coach Half leaving, but you can't block a guy from moving up in the world, right? And certainly he would deserve a head coaching opportunity at some point, but I don't want to think about that right now. I think you're right, though. I mean, we've got plenty of candidates that could be interviewed for that position. Obviously, if that did happen, we're going to look in-house first, and then we're probably going to interview a few other candidates outside the building and see what happens. But I feel good about our defensive staff as a whole. And Coach Covington, judging on, we're talking about the impact that he could have on this D line, right? And I think that beyond wins and losses and success rate as a coach, my biggest attribute when you look at a coach, whether that's a head coach or a coordinator or a position coach, is what do they get out of their players? Right. Like certain guys are able to just get that extra that extra gear out of a guy, or they get players to buy in. We hear that term a lot, right? Buy in. And I think one of the things, if you look at Coach Reb, just in comparison last year to this year, I think guys were bought in and guys were, wanted to play for him. But I think Coach Covington kind of brings kind of a more balanced approach. I think he's a technical coach. He's an X's and O's guy. He's experienced as a player and as a coach. And then, he's got a little bit of fire and brimstone too, a little bit of intensity with the guys. You could see that. And I think he's going to be judged basically on what we see from our players. What kind of year is Kenny Clark going to have? What kind of year is Rashawn going to have? How are these rookies going to play in their first year in this system, in this scheme? So that's what I'm going to judge him based on.
Yeah. Daryl in the chat says Sorrell might be Gary's opposite side. Yeah, he's definitely going to get snaps. I mean, with the way they rotate those pass rushers in, Sorrell's going to get an opportunity this year. Now, the question is, and we'll get the LV in here in a minute, will he kick inside? There's some rumors swirling about that. I don't know if there's any validity to it or not, but excited to see how that all unfolds as well. But I agree, Daryl. I mean, the thought of Gary on one side, Sorrell on the other, that's some straight power rushing right there. And then you mix in a little bit of our boy Colin Oliver too, and you got Brenton Cox Jr. You got you got a lot of depth there. You really do. And I know people still like to try to dog the pass rush, but top 10 in sacks, you're number 2 in run defense. Like, I don't know what else we're looking for, boys, unless we're saying we ain't going to settle till we get top 3 in every single statistical category. It's so rare that it happens in the NFL because you got to pick and choose what you're going to take away. Ryan Wood tweeted this out. Kenny Clark has hosted Packers D-line at his house for film study throughout the spring. It's common to spend time together off field, but film study on Friday and Saturday nights are rare. Tim, give me a screen grab if you don't care real quick. It can be the wrong one or whichever. Halfway probably all right. He said, quote, we're together all the time, so why not watch film and get better while we're hanging out? You want to know why they love Kenny Clark? Listen to what this man has to say right here. I'm telling you, this is – and, again, we're going to find out about some of the struggles that Kenny had last year. We'll hit on that here in a second. But here's what Kenny Clark had to say. And, again, this was by Ryan Wood on X that posted this video.
Did you decide to do it this offseason?
I mean, we've been doing it. We've been doing it pretty much this whole off season. We did it a little bit like last year. Like we'd get together, watch Indy and all that kind of stuff. But we've been more consistent with it. Just picking each other's brain, talking about different formations, fronts. Main thing with them, I'm trying to get all the younger guys to just understand formations and how to play the blocks. We going back to more playing technique. So. It's huge for them to understand formations and how people are going to try to block the front.
It's one thing to do that, when you're in the building, but you guys are doing it on your Friday and Saturday nights. You said,
yeah.
Why? That's unusual. Why?
I mean, we together all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, why not? You want to watch film and get better while we hanging out.
How did it end up at your house?
Huh?
How did it end up being at your house?
I mean, most of the time I just invite guys over. Everything pretty much be at the house, yeah. So, we watch Thursday night football, watch the NBA finals, watching, we hanging out, and then we turn on the iPad, watching Indy, see where we can get better at, and watching just game film, whatever other guys rushing, whatever the case may be.
I mean, you guys are there to obviously learn the formations, but how much does it help just getting that off-season bonding going?
Yeah, that's the main thing is just getting the bond. Getting the bonding and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, just building as a team. We're gonna need everybody, and we're gonna need everybody to be playing at a high level to start the season and so forth. So we got to just make sure we hitting all.
All right, so I know there's many people through it like that's all fine and good, Clayton, but what about on the field? What happened on the field last year? This, to me, makes all the sense in the world, and we had heard some rumors about injury and this and that, but you guys remember when we were watching film all year long, what did we see? They had him in a touch spot. They had him playing a one tech to a 2-eye in the nickel 4-2-5. He was eating a double team, and like we showed a play the other night where Edgerrin Cooper kind of came across across the inside, right on the face of the guard, and washed the guard into the tackle. And then you seen Kenny engage, and he just kind of straight to the left, just hanging back, covering the rush lane. Cooper ended up hitting home on the sack. When you see consistently week in and week out, and people were dogging Kenny, and you guys know I've been vocal. I didn't think we should have extended Kenny. That's just me personally, not at the price that we did. But we said as soon as it happened, it's so obvious this coaching staff and Brian Gutekunst sees him as a leader. You're getting a locker room stud too. This guy that's going to be the glue to a team. He is just a natural born leader. There's no two ways about that. But as Matt Schneidman tweeted out here, Kenny Clark asked if the field surface in Brazil contributed to his toe injury that led to offseason surgery. Quote, I ain't going to answer that question. Last time I got all the Brazilians on me is what he said. All right. But Rob Domofsky, Matt Schneidman, a quote tweeted Rob Domofsky, says Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark said he underwent foot surgery in January for a bunion/bone spurs. Anybody ever heard bone spur before?
Yeah.
That sucks. That is like walking on glass is what it feels like.
Exactly what it feels like. Glasses coated in salt and razor blades. Yeah.
He spent a good chunk of last season on the injury report because of a toe injury. Said it initially happened in the season opener in Brazil. He was playing with a toe injury since week 1 of last year, right? And again, it explains why Hafley utilized him the way he did. It makes me feel a little bit better about our predictions too. We were expecting his pass rush numbers to go up. When that happens in week 1, and he's going, no, I want to be out there. I want to be out there. They knew, all right, he's gonna garner attention. Right, he's considered our best defensive tackle. So defense is already going to be looking for him. Why not set them up and force them to double team him, put him in a 2-eye or a 1-tech, and have the 3 to a 4-eye on the opposite side? That way, okay, let's just go ahead and double team. All right, they want to put their best defensive tackle in a double team position anyway. Let's just double him, and we'll make them play left-handed. And lo and behold, you look back, and he's battling a foot injury all year long. It makes sense, right, Emilio? Does that really connect the dots?
Yeah,
it does for me.
Absolutely. I'm be honest, I didn't even really know that he had that toe that bad. We talked about turf toe earlier. Anything that messes with your feet, I mean, that is brutal in the NFL. I mean, brutal in any sport really, but like he's got no drive. He's facing off against at least 1 300-pounder, probably 2 if he's getting double teamed. And where are you able to? Yeah, exactly, Coach. Surgery on the toe is no joke. He has to push off without that toe. Yep. That's it. What are you trying to do? You're turning your foot sideways to try to get it flat. You're trying to dig off your heel. How can you even lean forward at all without being able to push off? So, a tough guy right there. That's a man right there. I mean, you talk about you could be messing around talking about a foot injury, toe injury, but playing on it for 18 games, that's something else.
Yeah, and Coach Lynn says here, and he played through it all year, Tim, all year long.
Yep. Yeah, I think. I mean, if I was a lineman, obviously I'm not because I'm like $150 soaking wet,
and I'm jealous too,
but seriously, I would rather break my hand or my forearm or my shoulder or tear a pec than to deal with anything lower body with 280, 300 plus pounds on my frame, and I got to be light on my toes. I got to move laterally. I got to move, like Emilio's saying, how do you even get down into a 3-point stance if you had to? How do you get that momentum going forward if you got no push off? We dealt with that with Tay. Tay Adams had turf toe his last year in Green Bay, and people were, it's just turf toe. Why isn't he playing? It's like, man, do you realize this guy runs and cuts for a living and is doing that with a knife in his foot? Like, it's difficult. And I think a lot of these injury designations can kind of get lost in the weeds because they sound less serious than they are. Out with a toe injury, and everyone's like, oh, it's your toe. It's like you have no idea until you deal with something like that, what that does to the body.
Go ahead, Emilio.
No, I was just saying, you're standing on, like, you're trying to play on the ball of your feet. How can you even put pressure there? Like, at that point, just wrap it up or chop it, like, just chop it off, do something, because you can't play flat-footed, and you also can't explode off of it. If it was his big toe, it's a wrap. We don't know exactly what toe it was, but if it was his big toe, I absolutely am not holding anything against him because there's no way one of your feet, like everything, From
you look at these guys' feet when they finish their careers too. And
Oh,
it looks
yeah,
like
they're
it's been
mangled.
through a wood chipper or something,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like they deal with this all the time. And I like Ed Madden's comment here. One thing about Kenny, he doesn't miss games. And it's
Bingo.
like, hey, let's pull up the PFF, man. Let's go back. You know, the last of the Ted Thompson draft picks on this team is Kenny Clark, and I think he's missed 5 or 6 games his whole career.
Yeah.
That's something to be said about that for sure.
Did you get your money out of him based off of his appearance on not being hurt? Like, yeah, you might not have gotten the stats, but did you get your money out of the work? You know, if you're looking at it as a tool, did that tool do the job for you? Even though, you know, maybe it wasn't it wasn't drilling in the screw as fast as you wanted it to, but that thing ran for years on end.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you, we talked about Big Dog last night, right? We were talking about Mercedes Lewis and like, hey, how would we feel about after retirement, a guy like that coming back in as a position coach or a, developmental guy or maybe an advisor or something. I feel the same way about Kenny Clark right now. We don't know how many years, of football he's got left. I wouldn't be opposed to him coming back and coaching, being a defensive line assistant coach. I mean, he's basically been kind of a player coach these past couple of years working with these young guys. And I think, to Kenny's credit, man, he's really he's really taken that responsibility seriously. I think he's kind of owning that leadership role with this D-line group. And, with the coaching turnover and the changes that we've had, I think it's important to have guys like that on your team for sure.
Yeah. Ryan Wood also tweeted this out. It's a minute 30 video. We'll hold off on the video, but he said Lucas Van Ness played with a cast protecting his broken thumb on his right hand until week 10 last year. Even after the cast was removed, Van Ness said there was, quote, mental block, learning how to use his hands again. How much did the injury affect him? Quote, playing defensive line, it's all with your hands. And I want to scroll down because Ryan Wood also went on to say, ask Rashawn Gary how difficult it would be for an edge rusher playing with a broken thumb. His answer might help explain Lucas Van Ness's challenge last season and what teammates think of what he did last year. Gary said, quote, he's a dog, man. That just shows you not being able because our hands are everything as a defensive lineman. If you don't have these, you don't have nothing. Playing with 9 instead of 10 fingers, going against people 330, 350 pounds, it's a hard job. That just shows you his grit, his hunger for the game, and how much he cares about this team and this organization. So a lot of LVN hate out there. And I'm telling you, man, there's also stuff that's going around right now about Lucas Van Ness, and Wes Hodkowitz had tweeted this out. We'll go rapid fire and show this real quick while we're on it. Wes Hodkowitz says, LaFleur on Lucas Van Ness getting reps inside. Quote, situationally, you can do that. In known passing situations, there's some thought around that. A lot is going to be dependent on everyone else as well. Lucas has shown a lot of growth. Excited to see him once the pads go on. So what we talked about and how he played at Iowa, he would play that 3 tech. He'd play that 4. Some cases he'd be a 5 tech with a wide 9 outside of him. So he's technically playing defensive tackle. I feel like I think back, Emilio, to what Greg Cosell said. Greg Cosell said going into that summer, he said, I'm hearing out of Green Bay that they see Lucas Van Ness as an outside linebacker in their 34 defense. Of course, at the time, it was Joe Barry's defense. He said, that surprises me, but obviously they see something there because I seen him more as an interior pass rusher. So if they do kick him inside and you think, how can they do that? Well, look at the heavy rotation. We just got through talking about Baron Sorrell, who can play a 3 tech as well, by the way. You got Colin Oliver added to the mix. You got Brenton Cox Jr., who led the team in pressure percentage, right? You got all these players that you can kind of rotate in. Why not kick him inside? And who knows, Emilio, this might be why they didn't go after a 3 tech. They may see LVN having a little bit of a future there. I mean, time will tell.
And I think that kind of just comes full circle to the Packers love versatility and guys, the ability to be able to work him inside and work him back outside. Then you're looking at Baron Sorrell, kind of the same sort of dude. If you want to put him on the outside, all right, we might be able to make that happen, but he can work inside from 0 to 5. And I think that's kind of always something they're tracking down. But thinking about that, he had that thing broken when we were in Tennessee and we had 8 sacks, and he helped Rashawn get that one. mean, Rashawn came right over to him and said, "That one was you, LV. Like that one was you, Lucas. You sprung me on that one." And so just them taking notice of that, the fact that everyone's always fighting through injuries, but you always learn a lot more, as the year goes on, or in this case, as the next year starts. Hey, how many guys were dogs? How many guys really fought through and played for this team no matter what? You're starting to get that picture. Kenny, LVN, like who else was really fighting through a lot? You saw Jay Love fought through a lot of injuries. And then guys on top of that are keeping it quiet until the end of the year.
Yeah. And shout out to Zach Metzenbauer, if I'm saying that right, I apologize. What are your thoughts on LVN putting on 10 to 20 pounds and playing defensive tackle instead of edge? Again, that's what he did in college. There's not going to be this huge learning curve for him to kick inside. And now think about what they've asked him to do, Tim, in the short time he's been in the league. His rookie year, they said, get out there and play 3-4 outside linebacker, something you've never done. Last year, all right, let's go to playing 4-3 defensive end. He did it quite a bit at Iowa, but again, his strength seemed to be on the interior as a pass rusher at Iowa. And now it looks like he might get his opportunity there in some kind of NASCAR package. But again, this is from our questions for the show in Patreon. Just another perk of being a part of our Patreon community. Go ahead, Tim. What do you think, man? I'd be okay with giving him reps in there. And again, it's not like you're okay now, LV, and you've got to really hammer down and learn how to play this position. No, you're talking about a passing situation. Put his big ass on the inside and go bull rush that guard.
Yep, and that's what we talked about when we drafted him, is the potential for that versatility, right? And that's what we like. And, to Emilio's point, we said this going back to last year, man. These dudes are playing for each other out there. Mm-hmm. Nobody's sitting there going, oh man, I was trying to get a sack and you didn't. It's like nobody's out for themselves. They're all playing for each other and they're working in tandem. So when you take a guy like LVN, who you can put on the edge, but you can also, stick him inside on occasion, like you said, on those key downs where you need that, you need a little thumper in your pass rush. I say let him do it, and maybe with a versatile player, the best thing you can do is keep him well versed in different looks. We talked about Coach Covington coming over here and wanting to run some 34 looks, mixing it up a little bit. So if you've got guys like LVN that are versatile enough to do it, I think that's the role. It's not about being one dimensional or, hey, you're just going to play, on the right side and you're going to be an edge. Right. We need you to do a lot of things well, and that's your role on this football team. It's situationally, and it's when we need you, when we call your number, can you go execute? And I think LVN is one of those guys that is capable for sure.
Yeah. Final topic here. Matt Schneidman put a tweet out, said Keyshawn Nixon said on locker cleanout day that he was done returning kicks. The two-time first-team All-Pro kick returner now says frustration in the moment led to that statement, and he should have kept it to himself. Quote, of course I'm open to it. I'm always going to do what the team needs. So I know many people were kind of trying to run him out of town with that comment last year, and it's another reason why it's tough when you and I know there's a cool-off period, but when you let the media in there after a tough loss like that, there's no one who was more upset than Keyshawn Nixon at fumbling that opening kickoff. And you heard Rich Bisaccia thought about retiring, and because he said and they asked him afterwards, like, how close were you to stepping away? He's like, I just felt like I really let Matt down with the special teams last year. So you got accountability there. You got Keyshawn. I guarantee you the reason he made that comment was because he's like, man, Emilio, you fumbled the opening kickoff. That's tough.
Everyone's looking at you on the sideline. Hey, keep your head up. But it's like, dude, I already messed this up. Like, there's no way you're recovering from that unless you get a pick six. You know what I mean? So, like, you're chasing a golden goose there that's probably not going to happen after you already messed up 3 seconds into the game. That's brutal.
Yeah. So I think this is good news. And I love that he just kind of owned it and said, hey, look, should have kept it to myself. It was just and I love that he wrapped it up too, Tim. Hey, I'm going to do what this team needs, man. It seems like there's some real unity on this team. And these guys, for the youngest roster in the league last year, they're all 1 year older. You got a little bit older with the free agent signings you added. I'm feeling good about where they're at, man. It does feel like that Super Bowl window is open. Oh, yeah, wide open. And I'm feeling really good about K9 right here. I don't know about you guys, but this reeks of maturity right here. This is a young player that is maturing right in front of our very eyes.
and kind of owning those comments last year. And like you said, putting a bow on it, I'm always going to do what the team needs. And that's the type of attitude you got to have to be a Packer, right? This is not a me organization. You want to deal with that. There's plenty of dumpster fires in the NFL. You can go play at if you want to be that dude. If you want to win championships and you want to compete for championships and be a part of something special, you come to Green Bay and you be a team player. And I think maybe Keyshawn's first couple of years here, he was a little bit of a me guy. Maybe he was kind of a star on the rise. And I think you're seeing a guy that is, approaching his late 20s, and he's maturing as not only as a player, but as a man, as a person. So I think it speaks volumes to Keyshawn's leadership and just the character that he has to just kind of own that and acknowledge it, not try and dodge it or dismiss it, but just say, hey, I should have kept my mouth shut. I was frustrated. That's a sign of maturity. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago. I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So I think the mad respect is deserved for Keyshawn Nixon here, just kind of coming into his own. I mean, hey, look at this. We got another leader in that secondary. How about that? If Keyshawn steps up and proves to be that level-headed, mature guy, man, we're looking really good on this defense for sure.
If I had a time machine, I would go back to when Clayton was about 20, 21 years old and just slap the hell out of the back of his head. Hey, dude, you think you know you ain't got a clue. Yeah. I was a moron, dude. So that's again, when you hear, and these guys are at the top of their craft. I love it when fans refer to players in the NFL as garbage, trash. Oh, he's trash. Get him out of here. Oh, his downfall should be studied. Blah, blah. I'm like, there is this much room for error for these guys.
Yeah. And it's real easy to say stuff like that from your mommy's couch in the basement.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. Anything else, gents? We good?
I think we're good.
Yes. All right, that was fun, man. I'm glad we got to hit all the updates. Appreciate everybody hanging out. We had a huge crowd in here. You guys and gals are awesome. Hit that like button on the way out. We appreciate y'all.